Hello there, and welcome to Andre's YouTube vlog for July 25th, 2012. Well, I have a very specific track of conversation I would like to have on this YouTube vlog, but I have two unfortunate celebrity deaths to report to you today. Number one, I wanted to send out a message to the family of the late Sally Ride, America's first woman astronaut who died earlier in the week of pancreatic cancer. I've experienced this in my own family, so, all my best to her family and admirers. And last night, Sherman Helmsley, otherwise known as George Jefferson, passed away at the age of 74 of more natural causes. Now, the main thrust of this video is that I have actually been talking to a lot of my friends who were involved in the Bangor Gay Pride Parade this year, and I noticed that a lot of them were talking about how much the gay community has improved in the city of Bangor, Maine, and how there's more out of the closet into the streets type of attitude and less people pitying themselves in the bars, in drink, in vice. Now, I saw that myself with the Gay Pride Parade this year in the city of Bangor, and I have some thoughts about this. They might be controversial, but it's just the way I see it. And, we all have rights to the freedom of speech. Myself, being homosexual, I have to say that while it's terrible, unfair, and just plain cruel and wrong, how people such as the religious right and so on and so forth are brutalizing homosexuals, mostly verbally, sometimes even physically, from what I understand, there are a lot of changes that the gay community have to make within themselves. One of them has to do with how they feel about themselves. I have been, for the past 3 or 4 years, renting a lot of documentaries from Netflix about this subject. Before Stonewall, Word Is Out, an excellent documentary interviewing homosexuals in 1977. Anything by Arthur Dong, Family Fundamentals, License to Kill, and most recently Coming Out of the Fire about homosexuals in World War II, lesbians and gay men. And I've come to understand something very important from watching these films and knowing homosexual people from many different generations. Mine, the one after, and a couple others before me. And it's that strengthening ourselves after years of being abused and criticized is a very difficult thing beyond where we may even know. For example, I've recently had 3 homosexual men, I will not mention their names, who have been exhibiting stalking behavior toward me on YouTube. And I've noticed one key thread in all of them. All of these people are extraordinarily sexually obsessed. It's all they seem to think about. And I try discussing my understanding of history with them, and it appears to only strengthen that. And the key here is that one of the main criticisms of homophobia, in America anyway, is that homosexuals are promiscuous and are incapable of having a reasonable monogamous relationship. And from what I saw this weekend, there are at least 3 gay people that I happen to have encountered who have, for whatever reason, wound up living up to this particular stereotype. 2, and this is going to be a little bit tough for a lot of you out there, is the way that pride parades are being conducted themselves. And I've noticed this is changing, okay, so I'm not making a criticism necessarily. But one of the first criticisms from the earliest homophobic religious right, Anita Bryant, the Briggs Initiative, all that in the 1970s, was that when you go to a pride parade, it is a group of men kissing other men and cavorting with little boys. Now, of course, we all know that's not necessarily true, but when you go to a pride parade, and to be honest, when you see people standing up, dressing half-clothed in leather, or acting in a sexually promiscuous manner in public, it actually has the effect of being the mentality of a teenager who is just trying to rebel against parents or haters, or as they're calling them now online, trolls. People who don't like what they do, either for generational or personal reasons. And when it comes right down to it, it is adolescent behavior. I'm sorry, I have to admit that. During the black civil rights movement, during the women's civil rights movement, you didn't see the black community going out and living up to what other people's expectations of them were. They didn't have white lips, and they weren't eating watermelon and saying, we want to be accepted for being Jim Crow or Uncle Tom or whatever. They showed some dignity in the way they were. And I've noticed that it's taken a very, very, very long time for the gay community to show outward dignity in and itself and not make it seem like it's some part of pornography. And this year, when I marched in the first gay pride parade of my life, I noticed there was more of a dignity there. The drag queens were dressed with more flair. The people who weren't in drag had a certain dignity about them. They seemed royal and regal. They didn't seem like porn stars, to be honest with you. And I know that there's an element of that. There is gay pornography out there, and I suppose it has a right to be there, but it shouldn't be sent out into the public, particularly in this environment where same-sex marriage is a very hot issue, and presented in such a way that says, this is what we're all about. Leather and profanity and all of that. I'm not being a prude, but this is a time where I think that the gay community needs to present itself with the utmost of dignity to show that side of it culturally, especially in more rural type areas like this, where homosexuality does tend to be seen in a certain light, and where there isn't as much as education as there could be about the subject. And being where I have, I've seen it all. The profane people, like those Facebook stalkers I've talked about, who are sexually obsessed. Closeted people who are so deeply secretive about their identity that they may even get themselves arrested by acting suspicious and overly private in public, getting the exact opposite effect that they wish. So, at this time, my opinion on the LGBTQ same-sex marriage movement is that at such a critical juncture, I feel that not only is it the homosexual, transgendered, gay, lesbian community that needs to reach out to people and change their opinions, but they need to look within themselves and change some of their views on themselves, because they might be surprised some things lacking in their own minds, their own lives, and in their own hearts. That's my opinion. I welcome yours. This is Andre, signing out. Peace to all.